Internet influencer Bryce Johnson claims to have a PhD in burnout, and for good reason. Odds are, if you're watching this video, you have seen him terrorizing the streets of Missouri in his 4th Gen Cummins. His shenanigans helped to amass him over 400,000 followers on Instagram and tens of millions of views as well. But why is Bryce, and specifically his truck, so popular with the diesel truck community? In this video, we're gonna dive in and talk about who Bryce Johnson is, the full build on his Cummins, and why he, and specifically the truck, are so popular. Welcome back to Allen Diesel. So who is Bryce Johnson? Honestly, not a lot is known about him. All I know is that he's a kid from Missouri. And the first time he popped up on my feed was actually on a Gabe Farrell Productions YouTube video a couple years ago. Gabe claims that he saw him racing a Mustang and was like, I need to go be friends with this guy. And then suddenly he started to appear in more Gabe Farrell production videos and his Instagram started to grow. But his social media growth really wasn't just from Gabe. It was because every time he posted on the internet, it was something ridiculous. Nowadays, he is known for his insane burnouts and drifts and for doing it in a full-size diesel truck. Switching gears, let's dive into the truck build and talk about why it is so special. Bryce and I actually messaged back and forth on Instagram a little bit, and he actually was able to send me the full build list on his truck. So here it is. So it's a 6.7 Cummins Ford 20 over. It's got Waggler rods, Beans girdle with ARP main studs, Hamilton 188 220 cam, which is ironically the same cam in my truck. The block and head are cut for fire rings. It's got a Hamilton street head that flows 226 CFM, 110-pound valve springs, threaded freeze plugs, Hamilton 9/16 push rods, 250% over extra G injectors, a 14 mil S&S CP3, a T6 comp steed speed exhaust manifold, an S483 turbo, although at one point he did have compounds. I'm not sure of the sizes of those. A fleece coolant bypass, a billet valve cover with dual breathers, a staging limiter, and he'd go back and forth between a 5-inch exhaust and a hood stack. So I know that was a lot of names and numbers, but let me simplify it for you. His build is basically a catalog build for around a 12 to 1400 horsepower drag racing truck. And usually the guys that you see that have this type of build are drag racers. All these engine upgrades allow the truck to handle high horsepower and high RPM for a long duration of time without hurting the motor. Now, if we look at the suspension on the truck, it was actually reverse leveled. I'm pretty sure he had some Carly control arms in the front. He also had a set of traction bars, and he had Yukon gears in the front and rear axle. Now, taking a look at the transmission, this is super important. Unlike your normal 4th Gen Cummins that comes with a 68 or a G56, his truck had a 48 RE swapped into it, which is the same transmission that my truck has. He paired that transmission with an external transcooler, which is much needed if you're gonna be doing anything with that transmission. You have to have some sort of good cooling on it. And then finally, he tops it off with a full manual valve body. Everything about that transmission setup, I believe, is key to why he got so popular, but more on that later. And then finally, the exterior of the truck. It was a beautiful Delmonico red, which is one of my favorite colors. It had a roll pan, it had a massive cowl hood, which I believe was custom. Oftentimes, he would run spacers, which would make the thing look even more aggressive and wide. As far as rims and tires, he would often switch between a 24x12 American Force or a 24x14 American Force. Usually he'd run it with, say, some Giovanna tires, very similar to my setup. He had rock lights on it, the Ford Valence, which the Ford Valence, in my opinion, is key to making your truck really look like a street truck. He had everything color matched, and the window tint was pretty dark as well. All right, so I've given you an overview on the build, but why was this truck so popular? In all honesty, there are a lot of guys that have built their truck like this, a lot of drag racers, and a lot of guys that are into building street trucks. This is not necessarily an uncommon build. Well, I think it came down to three things: looks, drifting, and filming. As we all know, on the internet, you need to stand out. And Bryce did this well. His truck looked the part. It looked like a nasty street truck. All of the upgrades I mentioned before and how it looks play a part in this. Whether it's the roll pan, the cowl hood, the spacers, the 24x14s, the Ford Valence, everything being color matched. He did a great job of following all the current truck trends, as well as pushing the limits on them. The second thing that I think really helped to make him pop off is honestly his drifting. There's a reason why when you see people competing with the Cummins, it's usually only in drag racing, and that's because that's typically all it's good for. A Dodge has a turning radius of a small ship. Not necessarily the thing you would think of when you're thinking of carving up the canyons, if you know what I mean. But Bryce was basically like, oh yeah? He drifted his truck like it was a 240 SX. He took a build that you would normally only see on a fire punk diesel forum, or maybe just only on the drag strip, and he actually took it into the real world and got it sideways. But he didn't just drift, he drifted with style. As I mentioned before, the truck had a staging limiter. Bryce was always on the limiter. He also had the full manual valve body. I want to talk for a second about this. I think the full manual valve body is one of the reasons why this truck did so well. Because when you have a 48RE, it's a 4-speed transmission. It does a great job of loading the turbos. It really gives the truck a unique sound and power band. But what's awesome is that when you have the full manual valve body, you can actually keep the truck in the gear you want and keep it in the power band. The 48 in its natural state honestly shifts way too early. But when you have a full manual valve body, it absolutely transforms how you can drive the truck. I actually drove a very similar setup in Chris's Mega Cab. He had a 6.7 that was built, 200%, an S480, full manual valve body, all that stuff. Very similar to Bryce's build. And let me tell you what, it was like nothing I had ever driven before. So you put that in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing and actually knows how to keep the truck in the power band. It's a dangerous combo, and I think that's one of the reasons why his burnouts just had this style. There was just so much more smoke, and that was because he was able to actually get it into like 3rd gear lock or maybe 4th gear and actually get the wheel speed to actually get the tire smoke so that while he's moving, it's not just drifting, it's drifting with style. Bryce usually had this thing hood stacked, which just makes for an insane sound. If you've not heard a 6.7 Cummins 2nd gen swapped hood stacked, it is deafening. But then he'd also switch it up occasionally for a 5-inch exhaust, which same thing, like 2nd gen swap Cummins with a 5-inch exhaust, dude, it sounds like a Peterbilt. And then hearing that thing at like 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, I mean, it sounds so good. The reality is that there's a lot of people doing burnouts on Instagram. Bryce just did them better. And then to get to my last point, the final reason why I think he did so well online is because in a world where everything is normally filmed with phones, he actually had good filming for all of his clips. Shout out to my boy Reaper Media, because I'm pretty sure he was the one that helped him a lot with this. On the internet, it seemed everyone was filming their stuff with iPhones, and Bryce had a Sony a7S III on a gimbal with an experienced cameraman in the back of a truck while he did his stuff. It was professional. I think one of the reasons why it did so well was it was the perfect storm between the three. It was a good driver, it was a good truck, and it was all filmed very well. So in conclusion, Bryce ended up giving away that truck. And while I definitely entered him to win it, kind of wish he had kept it. It was definitely the truck that made him famous, and I don't think anyone can drive it like him. By the way, new owner, if you are watching this, I will buy that truck, so we're clear. Even if it's blown up, just DM me. But I know that Bryce is always gonna try to do something crazy, so I look forward to seeing whatever he does in the future. Well, hey guys, thanks for watching this video. I know this was a little different. I'm kind of calling this a video essay. I've never really done a video like this, kind of just doing a piece on somebody and their build. But if you wanna see more videos like this, let me know down in the comments. This was a fun video to write and record. Anyway, thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.